Welcome back to Writing Done Right. Well, today we're going to do a tutorial in GIMP to teach you how to make a sketch out of a picture. All right, so what is GIMP if you are unaware? GIMP, or the GNU Image Manipulator program, is a free and open source alternative to Photoshop that you can install on any operating system that you are using. Now, we are going to do a tutorial on how to take a photo and convert it into a sketch. This is the method that I used on the book cover, I Am Not Amused, which you can see here on the screen. Now, this cover here, this photo, this was actually a real picture that we took, and then we post-processed it. All in all, this cover did not take a long time to produce, and it's actually one of my better covers overall. And we're going to show you how to use GIMP to make this type of cover design. Now, I'm going to be using this in Linux. The process is going to be the same in Windows or in Mac. Now, there's also ways to do this using similar tools and applications inside of Photoshop if you have Photoshop available. I won't be able to tell you the exact commands here and there, but hey, even if you have Photoshop, you can always install GIMP to do it this method as well. So with that, let's go ahead and jump on over to the computer, and then we'll do the tutorial and come back when we are done. Okay, so here we are on the desktop. And as I said, here's the cover that we are going to be kind of working with. And I'm not going to do the whole cover. What our task is here today is to teach you how to take a photograph and turn it into a sketch like this. Now, for the reference, this is actually the original photograph that went into making this cover. Let's see if I can open a new window of this or not. I'm not sure I can. Yep, I can indeed. All right, so here is what the end up cover looking like. And we want to do this in black and white. I'll teach you how to do a really nice color version of this as well. And this is actually the original photograph. So you can kind of see a few of the little things that we ended up doing here. One little notice is if we look at the lamp, I actually have these little sections, which they ended up being just a little, they would end up showing up as black in here, and they didn't actually look good. And so I edited those out. I also edited out this speaker wire, got edited out of the original, the final here rather. You can kind of see where the speaker wire would have been, and it's a really good editing out job. Most of the other stuff we didn't actually make many adjustments with. There was one other change, I forget what it was. There's one other thing we ended up doing that was a little odd. I can't remember what it is at the top. It might become obvious as we go. But what we're going to do is we're going to teach you how to do this type of effect, and we're going to show you both color and in black and white inside of the completely free and open source application called GIMP, or GNU Image Manipulator program. So of course you can download this on Linux, on Mac, on Windows, no matter what operating system. This is free to use, and you can basically use this for any of your editing tools. So the first thing we're going to do, let's just go ahead and open up our image. So it's asking us here, do we want to rotate or not? This is because we took this, can't remember if we took this on a phone or not, but there's basically rotation data. Let's just go ahead and rotate it. If it doesn't rotate right, if you get it in and it's sideways, just come down under your image or under your layer and you can rotate the images here. That actually might be something that you do under your layer instead. So here's your transform rotate. That's what I would do. Your image size is going to be a little bit different. But anyway, now that we have our rotation set up right, what we want to do is first thing I'm actually always going to do is I'm going to make a copy of the layer. So here's a duplicate. Now we might want to have one of these as a backup. We might want to have a second one of these just for other things. So I'm just going to click on this little eyeball over here, and the little eyeball will make sure that that one is hidden, which you can't really tell because there's two identical images on here. So what we're going to do is make sure that we are clicked on our working one. We'll just call this the one that says copy up here. And the one filter that we are going to want to use is we use our filter under our filters menu, and we're going to come down to our distorts and find emboss. So the emboss filter here, it's going to take this idea here, and it's going to give us our this ability here to just kind of see what we're going to be looking at. Now, on Photoshop, we should have a similar thing, and some of the tools will be able to show you the full preview. In this case, because it's so process system heavy, it doesn't show you the entire view. So what we are going to do is just focus on one place that we necessarily want to do the focus on. So let's just go up and we'll come back up to this scope up here, because I think that this is a good thing here to look at. So what we're going to do here is we have 3 different levels, and you can just play around with these different levels. You see this one will darken things out. This one here will lighten things up. So you can kind of play around with where you want your elevations to be. I find somewhere around here, maybe here in the middle, works out a little bit better. And then you have your depth is basically how high up this embossing is. So the higher this is, the more defined your look is going to be. And then here is just kind of pointing out where is the angle that it's going to be doing the sketching from. So depth, elevation, and azimuth. So let's go ahead and just try this. If we don't necessarily like it, we can undo it. We also have a bump map as well. The emboss is generally going to give us more of a black and white type look. The other one will not. But the other one will not give us quite as good of a sketch. And so there's something else we can do that we're going to be looking at here later. So give this a chance here, and it is going to take a little bit of time because this is actually a massive file. I don't think it's quite 4K, but it is pretty big. So there is what we have. We have nice sketchy type effect. Now you can kind of see it's a little bit more, it's a little bit darker, a little bit more gray. It looks almost maybe more like a negative than we want. Definitely cool though. Very nice. For the most part, this is actually pretty good. Now we might want to, let's undo that. I want to just go ahead and do that there. We can just kind of look in. We can zoom in. I'm zooming in by holding the control and hit the mouse wheel there. And then here I'm holding the middle button on the mouse, and you can scroll it around. Let's kind of see what we like. So, of course, it's a little bit darker than I'd like it to be, which we can adjust this a couple of different ways. Let's just go ahead and undo this, and then we'll go ahead and pull that filter back up. So let's go ahead and find our filter again under distorts, under emboss. Let's also just go ahead and before we do anything else, we're going to go ahead and hit the bump map as well. And this will kind of give us a similar effect, but it will be a little bit colored. But this is actually not how I do a colored sketch. I'm still going to use the black and white version for the colored sketch, but because this one you'll see is not going to look quite as good. Okay, so what you'll see here, this kind of gives it just a little bit more grainy, colored, grainy. You can see though it still looks like a photo, and that's why I don't like that option. So we're going to go back up to our filters, distorts, and let's go ahead and make it a little bit lighter. Now to make it lighter, the best way to make it lighter is just drop your depth down. Dropping your depth down is probably going to do a better job of this. So go ahead and do this, see how this looks, and this is probably how we're going to do some final edits here. Okay, so this is actually pretty close to what I did for the original book cover. Now, you'll notice a few things here. Sometimes you have the darker effects, like his hair. We still kind of wanted that darker. And so literally to pull this up, I actually painted the hair back in. Also, we did some adjustments over to these. We'll just go ahead and show you how to do a couple of those brief adjustments here. This might actually be a little bit too light though. Let's go ahead and pull the cover back up. I would actually think I might like it a little bit lighter. So let's just go ahead and do one more pass. We're just going to raise that up just a little bit more. And so it's 12. Let's bump this up. Let's try 20. Let's try 20. That's about halfway in between where I was and where we want to go. Okay, so this was actually pretty good here. So now the things, of course, looking around this, the things that I did actually edit the Bible a little bit to give it a much more defined, and I actually edited out some of this other stuff here. So you'll kind of see that I edited out this, the reflection in the original. I shored up this. We're going to show you how I did all of that right there. We can do separate videos on that. I just want to do a couple little things. The first thing let's do is let's go ahead and get rid of these segments here. Easiest way to do this is there is a clone tool. So find the clone tool over here in the menu. Make sure that you have a brush selected and then get a size that's decent. So right now we're at 20. I'm going to go up just double the size. I'm going to go up to about 40 there. Now what we're going to do is holding your control key, we're just going to hit the select right up here and then down here. Now, if you miss, you'll see that we missed there. We're going to just undo, slide this over a little bit more. That's a little bit better. Oh, look at that. Booyah! Done with that. Let's do that one more time. Booyah. Now we have our lamp. That's taken care of. So that's kind of how we did that. We can do a very similar thing to get rid of our speaker wire here. We're just going to, again, control here and just literally do this. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? So that's how we get our speaker wire out of there. Now, we're going to have to reset our control over here. Be careful on that edge. And just be very careful right down that very bottom. Look at that. Our speaker wire's gone. Isn't that amazing? Free application. All right, so the next thing we might want to do is let's go ahead and paint his hair back in. I want to use the airbrush tool for this. The airbrush tool is going to give us a little bit more. You can kind of see what it does there. And then what we're going to do is let's go ahead and I'm going to raise this up a little bit more. And then we're going to grab one of the more speckly brushes to give it better hair. So it's a little bit too light there. Let's just go ahead, increase the size here, and we're just gonna work with it here just to add a little bit more depth to it. We don't want it to be a ton. We just want just enough to bring out the color. That's not quite as good as I was hoping it'd be. Let's go ahead and try another method there. Sometimes this is just exploring with the different tools and the brushes that we have. So let me try a different brush. That actually might work. If I do want to do that, though, we're going to drop the opacity down just a bit because that's a little bit too much there. Let's go ahead and I'm not liking that. I'm not feeling that one. Let's try this one. There we are. That's better looking hair. So just experiment with your different layers there. Now the opacity is going to be how bright is it? So if you do a little bit of opacity, and then sometimes as you're doing this kind of stuff here, you're going to want to come back in and just do just a few different layers, a few different colors, a few different shades. That's what's going to give it the nice texturing. In fact, this is probably a little bit better hair than I had on the original cover, actually. Very nice, though. So that's kind of how we do our embossing here. Now, how do you make this color? That's actually a very good question. So what we're actually going to do is another reason we wanted this back up is we're going to turn this guy back on. And you can see here if we turn off the image here, that we have this. Now what we're going to actually do is change just the opacity of this layer here. We're just going to drop it down just a little bit. And then what this is going to do is it's going to start adding the color back in. Now that might get a little bit too washed out. Let's just have a look at what we got. So there we are. So now we have a very nice effect where we still have our color. You can see the chair, you can see the color of the face coming in, but we still have this nice sketched design. So that is how you can go ahead and do that. Of course, here's your solid black and white. And if we wanted to do this, just keeping that opacity. So if you wanted to experiment with this, what you might do is come up here, hit a new layer and hit white as the background. And then now you can see here that it's back to standard black and white, or here's your color version. So that is how you can do a sketch and draw it out as a sketch with both color and with black and white. Oh, look at this. We need to fix that a little bit there on the coloration. Oh, you know why? Because what I end up doing here is, if you remember, I undid, I hit the undo one too many times when I was fixing the hair. So let's go ahead and fix that speaker wire again. We got to go ahead and do that again. We're going to go back to a solid brush again. There we are. So speaker wire's done now. All right, there we are. That's better. Now, of course, you'll kind of see it comes back in just a little bit from the colored, just because as you'll kind of see it's still there. So if you are doing that, just make sure, be aware of that, and you can actually get rid of it on the original if you want to with the same tool. We are going to want to drop the size of that brush, though, down quite a bit. Let's go down. We want it to be about as concise as we can, so that we're not missing any of our lighting effects there. Okay, this one here, we have to be very careful because if I kept on going down where I just stopped right there, I would have put that black line over it. We don't want that to happen. All right, there we are. Now it's good. All right, so that's the tools that you need. So under Filter, under Distorts, Emboss. Remember that in the Emboss, we're using Emboss. The depth is going to give you how much, how bright, how dark it is. Azimuth is pretty much our angle. You can experiment with that. It's not going to make a lot of difference. And your elevation is basically how in depth it happens to look. So those are the ways that you do to get the coloration in there. Just create a copy of the layer and then set your transparency. I set this at 68%. You can experiment with different transparency levels. So you can see this one here is a little bit more sketchy like that. This one's actually a little bit easier and more defined to see. And this one up here. And I know it's going to drive some of you guys crazy. So what is the game? That's, of course, Black Ops 1 on Nuketown. So for those guys that are going to be curious about that. So anyway, thanks for coming along on this video. Hopefully this helped you out in some of your GIMP skills. Excellent free and open source application, and this is the exact application that I use to do all my book covers, including this one here, I Am Not Amused. I'll go ahead and put a link to this book down in the description there in case you are interested in checking it out. So thanks for coming along, and I hope that this video will help you get your writing done right.